Welcome to the Health Code podcast, where we have expert guest conversations on all matters health and lifestyle. My name is Kyakunzire. In today's episode, I'm with Angel Laura, an advocate in the public health sector, a very big force at that. She's a human rights advocate and an HIV activist, but I'll let her introduce herself. She tells us where we can find her, what she does, who she is, and then we can dive into the episode.
Hello everyone, I'm called Angel Laura Angel and I work with UGANET, a non-government organization that promotes social justice for people living with HIV as an advocacy officer.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Angel and I will be discussing stigmatization around children living with HIV, those who were born with it or who contracted it at a very young age. Now, why we chose this topic is because it's one of the areas that are usually overlooked when we are talking about stigmatization around people living with HIV. So we are going to dive deeper in that for the first part because we have a lot in store for you. So, Angel, maybe the first thing you can tell us is give us a small story, a snippet of what your story is before you found out your status.
Yeah, I want to start by saying that I was born with HIV, but little did my family or my parents know about the HIV status. From childhood, at around 5 years, I began to have different medical conditions. To begin with, my skin reactions, rashes all over my body, and many other different issues that came around. And little did we know that it was actually as a result of the virus, the HIV virus. And at that time, in that era, HIV was more known for the older people because that was the time when it was higher and so threatening to the community. So most people didn't expect me to have contracted it through birth.
Yeah.
So so many medical conditions were going on in my life. I was always in and out of hospital, and unfortunately my dad died when I was 2 years old, so my mother took on the responsibility as a mother, single mother at that. So she was always taking me in and out of hospital, but even at that time, the specialist doctors we were meeting could not have a thought that maybe let's test HIV. And in 2005, I think I was around 10 years old, my mother was diagnosed with HIV. But still, at that moment, she was also struggling for her life. And she went into like a whole depression because by then HIV was a real public threat till now. Yes. But that time it was up there, and knowing the fact that you're HIV positive, it was a very big threat to the community. So she was going through depression and all that. So I didn't have much time with her. But in 2006, while I was residing at a cousin's place, cousin of mine that was close to school, and I opted to live at her house due to the fact that her home was closer to my school. I had a sister who was doing internship with Tasso Mbarara, and during her internship, of course, she would see people with different signs and symptoms. So she was convicted to like any other person who probably got convicted, and she felt that I needed to do a test. So, but she couldn't do it in her power. She needed to seek permission. And at that time, my aunties on my mother's side had taken on the role to take care of my needs and all the other things, while they were also taking care of my mother.
Your aunties from your mother's side?
Yeah, from my mother's side. So, so at that point, she called them, sought for their permission, and she went ahead to do my tests at the center where she was working or supporting. And yeah, the results came out, and yeah, I was positive, and my CD4 by then, they used not to do viral load tests. They used to do typically CD4 counts. My CD4 counts were very, very low, close to 0, I think. And it was scaring. And then definitely they had to take me on for Septrin. Those days we used to take Septrin and not immediately to the antiviral therapy. So I took, I think, about a year on Septrin.
How effective was that though?
It didn't help because my CD4 was quite very low. I think I was on the mercies of God, I should say. Because if it wasn't for God, I don't think I would have survived for all those many years alive, living with HIV and no one knew. So I was basically on the mercies of God, I could say. So, and then in 2007, beginning of that year, I then started taking on the antivirus therapy, the ARVs in short. Yeah.
But how was that presented to you? Were you told that you were HIV positive immediately, or?
Yeah, and that is one of the things that was the most threatening of all. The communication then was not friendly. There was no counseling and guidance for mainly young people or children. Like the services there were mainly adult-based. So me, I was just given the news of being HIV positive without even, rethinking about how I would feel about it. And we can't blame them because by then that is how it was.
They used what they had.
They used what they had, yes. So we didn't have friendly services. So it really, really affected me highly and brought in suicidal thoughts. It brought in moments of self-stigma, Even before other people got to know about my status, me, myself, was self-stigmatizing myself. And a lot of fear that I was going to die. And of course, by then, we had a lot of talks around HIV and AIDS. And there were so many posters around the school where I was studying.
Because that's where I was going to get, to ask you, after you telling me how it was presented to you, I wanted to know, in the schools you went to, were they boarding schools, or now you just stayed on day schooling all through? And then while there, were they informed about your status, or what happened exactly?
Okay, in the long run, I was still staying at my cousin's sister's place. And all through that time I was still staying there. I think in her ignorance, she was discriminating me because my skin was in a very bad condition, honestly, full of wounds. And she had a young child. Probably she had fear that I would infect, because then people had fear for everything, for sharing things, for everything. They were ignorant about the spread of HIV. So I can say she stigmatized me or she discriminated me out of ignorance. And I was going through a lot with her at her place. I had to be given separate cups, separate plates, like even how I used to sleep, it wasn't good at all. And then in the long run, P7 second term, I had to request my aunties who were on my mother's side, who were taking over my needs. I requested to put me in boarding because I couldn't stand what I was experiencing back in that house. So I needed to change environment and to concentrate more. Already I was also going through stress. The fact that my mother was also not in good health. She was not mentally available. So I was in between, struggling with my health, struggling with the fact that my mother was not in a good place, and all the things around me. It was a very challenging time, I can say. But my aunties responded very fast to taking me to boarding. Little did I know that even boarding had its own challenges. Throughout school, no one could tell because I was always in long things, fully dressed, sweater, long socks, fully dressed like all the time. Whether it's raining or shining, I always had to be fully dressed so that people wouldn't see the wounds and the scars on my body. So I joined boarding. I was taking medication, but hiding it in my suitcase. So even the school premises did not know about mine.
Meaning they did not
They
inform
didn't
anyone.
know. They didn't know. But because I was swallowing while hiding, I had difficulties on adherence. still the mentality of I'm dying anytime anyway still kept in there. I was swallowing for the sake of swallowing, but still not even religiously taking my drugs. Like, it was just there. I swallow when I feel like swallowing. When I don't want to swallow, I don't swallow, like that. So my CD4 still continued to lower.
To be low.
And every time they did the test, they kept wondering, what is the problem? What is the problem? And yeah, later I joined, good enough, by God's grace, I completed my P7 successfully, went to a dream school. That was my first choice school. And here I am in my first choice school, which I was known for rich kids. I'm there and I'm wondering, okay, now am I going to cope here? I was still going through self-stigma and still not adhering on medication. In between there, I got other issues, the heart problems, due to the too many toxins in my body. So in between there, I even had to leave that school because that school's rules was not acceptable for my movements out of school to go and get treatment.
Yeah.
So every time I had to go home, because when the heart issues came in, now it's demanded for me to go out to seek other support. But for this school, it was strict on their rules on how they would run the system. If your conditions are consistent, you're laid to change environment.
The school as well was not informed, because now I believe this is secondary school.
Yeah, in the middle there, one of my aunties took it responsible to come, because honestly, every time my reports came out of medical were always low, and they kept wondering what is wrong. So my auntie came in school and informed the matron about my medication, and they had to transfer my medication to the sick bay. But still, that did not change the fact that I was not adhering well. And yes, the matron also wouldn't be there to follow you up all the time.
Every time.
Yeah. So still the other students didn't get to know about my status. The medicine was in the sick bay, and the matron did not go around telling people that I was HIV positive. Yeah.
But
So,
then, what I would love to know, because now we are especially talking about kids that get to find out that they're HIV positive at a very young age, either through birth or they contracted it earlier on. What can schools do better to make sure that they feel more comfortable? Because I'm looking at you hiding, and then I'm thinking maybe the parents hid it from the school for your safety. Because I don't know what they told you while they were giving you that medication. Maybe you'll give us that. You'll tell us.
Actually,
what
there was
they
no
told you.
communication about it. It was basically come in, check, give you medicine. Like, there were no friendly services. It is today that they have to internalize and see, how can we change this? How can we change that? There, we were all fighting to get medicine available for Ugandans at that time. That was the only mission for every center that had that medication is, do we have medicine? Because above us, all the time ahead of my time, people didn't have medication. People were buying it. So at the time I came in with my HIV status being positive, all they were caring about is the medicine available for you?
True.
These services have come in at a later stage, after knowing that, oh, the government of Uganda has secured this medicine, and yes, we are safe now. So what next can we change?
So now that brings me to what we are talking about right now. The students that are going through that, the young children that are going through that, now that the medicine is there, now that the ARVs are here, what can schools, what can administrations do better to make sure that even the students who are in school adhere to medication well, they don't feel stigmatized, they do not feel like they're dying anytime soon? Because that's all you were talking about when you were talking about your primary level and then your secondary level. How can they, with your experience, what can they do better as an administration? And
this question is very hard on one side, because we as people living with HIV, we all have different needs. Despite the fact that one bracket is we are all HIV positive. For me, it might be okay. Another child, it might be okay to tell the matron to follow up. And another child, it might not be okay for the matron to follow up. And another issue of also informing the school. And you have the special treatment. Well, most of the time, some parents, I've interacted with some parents who have kids who are HIV positive as well as the parents. But they would say that whenever would inform the school, and then these kids start to have that special treatment, you have special meals, you have what, it also stigmatizes this. So this needs assessment is that it's mostly at individual level. How does the person feel about whatever you're trying to bring on table for them? I think it also goes back to the choices that that person wants. It's me to say how I want it to be like, not maybe my parent making a decision because, oh, I am this. You know, sometimes we're treated like children of special needs. It's not you to show me that, oh, because I have HIV, I should be treated in a certain way, I should eat in a certain way, different from other students, all these kind of things. Yes, you're doing it for the good of the child, but is this child willing? Has she accepted or he accepted?
So meaning they should be involved in the decision.
Yes, you need to consult the children, and also how do you break the ice of their status towards them? Because first of all, it begins with informing them that they're HIV positive and this medicine is key. So it goes back to the parents supporting the process right from the health center where they're receiving the drug refills.
Yes.
So when they support them to know their status and build their confidence there, and then, okay, now back to school, what do you feel comfortable with? So it's a consultative, it's a journey of involvement, meaningful involvement with the child living with HIV. But when you go there and you just make decisions because for you think, my child is delicate, my child is this, you are stigmatizing them indirectly. Unknowingly. Because one of the top advocates told me that at their time, like for example, health, let's say Tasso would come with a vehicle branded Tasso, and everyone knows Tasso
has brought medication for HIV
yes,
patients.
They all know. The mere fact that they have seen that van parked maybe in your compound, that itself will bring stigma around.
Yes, true.
Yes.
Very
so
true.
For them, they think they are giving you proper care. They're bringing for you all these things.
They're making it easier for you, but instead they're making us.
So yes, we have these new interventions that are coming in. For example, we have the pharmacy model right now. We have the community where people are followed up to the homes, you know, to help them refill their drugs. Even in that process, how is this package presented to this person? Have you come with that branded vehicle that shows everywhere that or whatever?
So we have to be sensitive when we are passing on all this help that we have brought.
Secondly, in schools, the messagings that were always planted in the compound, the messagings were very stigmatizing. HIV kills or AIDS kills. Yes, you want to inform the children that they should keep in proper behavior, not to contract this disease. But what of this one who's already found themselves in that condition?
And who didn't misbehave?
Who didn't misbehave? So, you know, HIV had an immoral face behind it back then in the old days. Till today, there's some places you go to and they still think, when you say you're HIV positive, they still believe that you've actually had sex around, you know, and all that. So even the messaging in the compound, even when we want to put out a message on HIV and all that, we need to better our messaging.
Sure.
Yeah, sensitive reporting or sensitive messaging for the young people, to, you know, those who are HIV, to live in an environment that is favorable for them, and for those who are negative to keep negative.
Sure.
Yeah, and these things we learn over time.
Yeah.
We research.
We do.
Sometimes you don't just do things, you need to research. So while the people that put out those messaging, they need to also research on the current trends. Yeah.
So what, now that we are done with that, what are some of the risks for not telling your child that she's HIV positive? Because we've also found those parents who hide it from a child till they're 18.
Yeah.
But then now, children are having sex at 15. So how do you ensure that they do not either get infected or infect others without also making them feel bad? So what are those dangers? Because I'm looking at it, well, they're trying to protect the child. So many stories that I've had are usually of parents saying we do not tell them, we only inform them that they are really delicate, they have some illnesses, some terminal illnesses, avoid all this, but I'm looking at it as a danger. So what are the more risks, and then how can you advise that parent to be more comfortable informing the child about it?
It's very important for the children to know their status. This is a serious note. Today, young people or children are having sex. They are seriously having sex and parents don't know. Many times you find girls of 8 telling you that they're already into sexual intercourse with maybe even big men or something, or even fellow students. We had coupling in school. And today you find the coupling of those days we used to fear because this HIV and AIDS were all over that compound or whatever. And even the morals back home. Our parents back then would over-insert morals on children, you know, how to behave. But we have also seen that today parents have abandoned the parenting role because they're busy looking for money to support this child. So it's very important for the child to know their status. But I know many times parents, it becomes very difficult.
True.
What do you do? I believe every health center today has a counselor. If you cannot do it as a person, inform the health facility to support you on the journey. It's a journey. You don't spread it out immediately like that or throw it to the child like that. It's a journey. There are questions they will keep asking them, you know, to prepare their mind for that final answer. So if you as a parent cannot handle that, go back to your health facility, be frank with those people, tell them, you know what, I need my child to know their status. Because remember, we're also working on proper adherence. Sure. If this child is not adhering well, chances are little that this person will survive. Chances are little that they will experience, actually they are high that they will experience drug resistance. Like myself, I experienced drug resistance from the first line. In ARVs, we have 3 lines. When you fail on the first line, you're taken to the second line. When you fail on the second line, you're taken to the third line. In Uganda, we stop on the 3rd line. If you fail on the 3rd line, it means you're dying.
You're done. There is nothing
you're
you
done,
can take.
And we will wait until we say bye-bye. You get it? So you need to support this child's adherence. Like myself, I failed on 1st line, I ended up on 2nd line. It's not nice. Knowing that you failed on the 1st line. Maybe I would have, adhered well, and I would be in a better position, and maybe I would even be undetectable immediately. It wouldn't have taken so long for me to be suppressed and all that. But the more the child is not adhering well, the more risks they are subjecting their bodies to. And of course, the adolescent stage is coming in. They're going to be sexually attracted or sexually involved. So you cannot know. They need to know all this information. And that is what we went back, when we look at the sexuality framework, it's one of the things we have advocated for over time, and we have seen it being swept under the carpet. It's somewhere on the shelves. It's not being put out. Because we want these children to know all these things. Because the fact is they are sexually active. Whether I want to admit it or want to act like we are a very religious country, things are happening.
And we are not aware that people are doing it.
Some are even aware. Some are even our children.
So we are acting like
we have teenage pregnancies happening. But we want to pretend that we are a religion. When you talk about sexuality framework, we are teaching. They associate it with this whole trend of homosexuality. But no, when you read that document, what does it really talk about these things? You remember we used to have PIASE in primary school.
True.
Today we don't have PIASE. Children go in and out and they have read about all these issues. PIASE is to support us on being aware of certain things. But now we no longer have those kind of added, components in our education.
Something we need to push for further. So,
yes.
Sure.
Yeah.
Now, for a child that just found out, and by children I mean even young adults, could be a 19-year-old and below, who have just found out about their status. What can you advise them of? Also, those young ones that have just contracted it, because a 15-year-old born negative could have sex with an uninfected person and contract it. What advice can you give them?
Yeah, one of the things is I want to encourage that when you contract HIV, look at yourself beyond the virus. We are very blessed. Today we have the medication, because yes, you're already in it. You can't reverse the process.
True.
The process is already there. You've messed up in whichever way, or you've contracted through whatever way. Me as a person, I started this journey to give hope to young people out there that despite being HIV positive, you can still live a normal life. You can achieve your dreams. You can do things that other people can do. HIV does not limit us to achieving goals. It doesn't. But when you plant it in your head and it limits you, you're definitely going to be in depression, fail to adhere, have drug resistances, have all these issues, even resulting to AIDS. Now, AIDS is a combination of different medical conditions. Okay? And once you clock AIDS, it means you're going to die. So I encourage these young people living with HIV, no matter how you got it, you still have a life beyond the virus. See yourself potentially beyond the virus. But also have a what we call humanity, that empathy for other people who are not infected. For example, yes, to protect them. We are not only looking at the sex bit, but when you use a sharp instrument, where do you place it? For example, you have young siblings in the house. Where do you place those kind of things? Be more responsible, even on the outside environment. Protect other people. Let it be on the back of our minds. Yes, I am in this situation, but I don't want someone else to be in the same situation. Many times when we find ourselves HIV positive, we tend to become selfish. We become selfish. We begin to say, "What after all, since they are Jewa, I got it from somewhere else. I don't care. Even other people need to feel my pain." No. We need to have humanity in ourselves. We need to protect another generation. Imagine a generation all over the world, all infected. Would it make us happy? No. It wouldn't. Not. So we need to work towards protecting people around us. Let even our own siblings, everyone around us, you have to be conscious about them. Yeah.
That's good. That's good. Now, as we come towards the end, I would ask you, actually, before we end, what advice can you give now that friend to the person living with HIV, to the child living with HIV? Now you're speaking to the young ones that are negative. How can they be better friends to their friends, the HIV positive friends?
Yes, same way to the young ones who are negative is the fact that anyone is a candidate to HIV. Today you're fine, negative, tomorrow you can't know if you will still be negative. So you need to treat the other person living with HIV well. Do not stigmatize, do not discriminate. Because even you are candidate to that situation. So we need to also continue to create a favorable environment for people living with HIV. We can be friends with them, and we cannot contract from them. We can eat on the same plate, we can hug, we can hold hands, all that, and will not infect our friends. There are other ways of infecting, through blood. When your blood mixes with a person else's blood, and it's directly on your body, not outside the body, on your body, that's when you contract HIV. Through sexual intercourse, definitely. The vaginal fluids, where they are not having protected sex. As I already said, children also having what? Sex. And they're having unprotected sex in most cases. So they need to also be aware that their protection mechanism. We have all these commodities on market. But what do we emphasize when it comes to children? To abstain.
Sure.
Abstain. Because sex was always told to us that sex is for married people.
Sure.
That was what was told to us. And when you're a child, why would you be engaging in sex? Okay, yes, puberty has kicked in, adolescence stage has kicked in, but we need to learn to have self-control also.
Sure.
Yeah, and be aware. Be aware. I'll emphasize this. Personal responsibility is key. You need to be very responsible. Look at everyone else around you as a sick person if you want to live a safe life in this world.
And protect yourself.
Yeah.
Now, as we come to an end, Angel will just leave one small message to the 10-year-old Angel. She's going back in time to when she had just found out about her status, when she was scared, worried. She's just going to give herself a small message to her younger self.
My younger self, oh my God. I wish I had the confidence I had now. I would be very far. Because my younger self had very much potential. I feel like I had more potential than I have now. The energy, the confidence, I think I would have touched more lives than I've touched today or now in this era, because my younger self had a lot of stigma. My younger self experienced a lot of discrimination. As I already said, the regime of HIV has changed. Back in our times, it was really hard. It was really hard. They're not so very many years ago, but 20, 30 years down the road, it was hilarious with being
difficult.
Living with HIV. So my younger self, I would continue to speak to myself. So I'm speaking to someone who is out there, to always speak to themselves, whoever is most likely the younger ones living with HIV, to keep strong. Keep strong, adhere on medication, follow the doctor's prescriptions, love yourself. Self-love is very important. Mental health is very important. Don't even allow anyone else to stigmatize you. If you're not willing to talk about your status, it is okay. You can adhere, and you adhere within you, without talking about it with very many people. And for those who are willing to be advocates like us, you're welcome to the platform.
That's good. That's good. So that wraps up our discussion for today, and we shall be having another part. So please stay tuned in. Angel, thank you so much for your insightful ideas. I always believe knowledge is power. They say it, we hear it, but we don't listen. Knowledge is power. And I'm very sure everyone that has listened to you right now, everyone that is watching right now, has learned something. So thank you very much. And to our viewers, thank you very much for supporting, for listening. Continue to like, to share, to comment, and subscribe so that you continue to get updates. And for the child who is suffering, who thinks it's the end of the world, Angel has shared something really insightful. Look at yourself beyond your status. You're beyond your status. And you can live beyond that. You can live a fulfilling, healthy life. Bye-bye.